Hey guys. Okay, so for our reading today, it's going to be a little bit longer of a video, and I'm going to share the screen with you after we go over our spelling and vocabulary. So, yesterday we went over our spelling words. On Monday, you were supposed to sort them. Yesterday, you were picking an activity from the choice board, and today I want you to pick another activity to keep working on the spelling of these words that add the suffix en to each of them. Now, I also asked you to go over your vocabulary and to look up in the glossary any of the words that you were unsure of. So let's go over those quickly before we read our story. So the first word was prepared. That means ready or have made ready for use at a later time. I want you to think about if you're cooking dinner and if you have all of your ingredients out, you are prepared. You got it ready ahead of time, and now you are prepared to make a meal. Emergency. That's a serious or dangerous situation. Could be if someone got hurt or there's a fire, a car accident, a bad storm comes. It's an emergency. Memorize. Learn exactly and without the chance of forgetting. You know, like those sight words that now you just know them, you have them memorized, or those multiplication facts that I keep asking you guys to memorize. Responsible, to be in charge or in control of a job or duty. Just like you guys are responsible for all of your work. You are in charge of making sure it's done and getting it sent to me. And then finally, instructions. Directions or orders. You know, that's when you follow my instructions, when I'm telling you a list of things to do, and you complete each of those tasks. So now that you are familiar with that vocabulary, I want you to go to page 507 in your MyView Literacy book. We are going to read together a safety plan in case of emergency. Now, you may want to read this on your own as well. I am going to read it aloud in our recording today, so feel free to follow along. I am going to switch the screen in a second so I can read it to you, but the first page is 508, and it will look like this. There's two kids looking out of a window. So give me a second to share my screen. And here we are. Okay, so we are going to start at paragraph 1. Life works out better when you're prepared. If you study for your test, you'll likely get a good grade. If your family makes a grocery list, you'll remember to get everything you need. It makes sense to prepare for an emergency too. A disaster is an emergency that causes harm to people or places. You may never experience a flood, a tornado, or another kind of disaster. However, it's smart to prepare so you'll be ready to keep yourself safe. Preparing for emergencies isn't hard. In fact, it can be fun. It will help you to feel safe and secure too. Working with your family to make a plan, put together a safety kit, then you'll be ready for anything, just in case. So go ahead and turn the page to step 1, learn about natural disasters. The first step of making a safety plan is to learn about different types of natural disasters. In particular, learn about disasters that might occur in your area. The more you know, the better you'll be able to prepare. The National Weather Service is an excellent source of information about natural disasters. Natural disasters are events in nature that harm a certain area. You can learn where they are most likely to happen and how to prepare for them. The National Weather Service website provides facts about weather events and safety. You should know about the following types of natural disasters: None of these events happen often. In fact, a natural disaster may even happen where you live. However, being prepared will help you feel confident. If an emergency arises, you'll be able to think clearly and to help others. Now, remember, right before spring break, we read a whole thing about natural disasters. We talked about earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, landslides, thunderstorms, tornadoes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, wildfires, and winter storms. We all agreed that in Texas, especially in the DFW where we live, the natural disasters that we are most likely to experience would be floods, thunderstorms, and tornadoes. There is occasionally the earthquake. And then if we lived closer to the coast, we would definitely experience some hurricanes. So I'm not going to go through and read all of those definitions. You can read about those if you need to refresh your memory in your textbook. So go ahead and make sure you are on page 511. Step 2, make a safety plan. The second step of preparing for emergencies is to make a safety plan with your family. The plan will help you to locate one another. It will also help you to find a safe place to meet during an emergency. You and your family should decide which family members will call each other in an emergency, which neighbors you will contact, which out-of-town or out-of-state relative or friend will you contact, where family members will meet. The calling plan. Your family should create a calling plan. Make sure all family members have a paper copy. Keep the plan in a safe place. You might want to keep yours in your school backpack. Family members with cellular phones should save the phone numbers they will need in their contact lists. It's important to have a contact person who is out of town or out of state. This person may be easier to reach during an emergency because the event may not be happening in his or her location. Try to memorize your parents' or caregivers' phone numbers. If you don't have a phone and need to borrow someone else's, you'll have the most important phone numbers in your head. Now, I do think that it is super important that you have your parents' phone numbers memorized in case anything happens. And even if you're with me and I didn't have your parents' phone numbers, I would have my phone and you could say, oh, I know it, Miss Masachi, and we could dial it. So while you are at home, I think you should definitely work on memorizing some important phone numbers of those who could be contacted just in case there is an emergency. So I want you to go ahead and go to the meeting plan. That is on page 513. Decide with your family where you will meet in case of an emergency. In some situations, it will make sense to meet at your home. In other emergencies, you might not be able to get to your home or neighborhood. Choose a meeting spot outside your neighborhood. Make sure all family members know how to get there. Next, draw a map. With your family, draw a simple map of your neighborhood. Mark the location of your home and label it. Show the location of your school. Label it. Finally, mark the meeting spot outside your neighborhood. Label it and add street names. Draw a line showing the best route from one location to another. Now, if you have time and would like an extension activity, I would love for you to practice drawing a map. Follow the guidelines. Show me a safe place. You can draw a map of your neighborhood. Mark the location of your home. If you want to do one of Fort Worth where you could show where your home is in relation to High Point, that would be great. I would love to see your maps. Now, step 3, which starts on page 514, says make a safety kit. A safety kit isn't just for helping you in an emergency. It's also for keeping you comfortable and calm during and after the event. When your family puts together a kit, put in the necessary items. Then also add some comfort items. For example, you may want an extra comfy piece of clothing or a favorite blanket. Make sure everyone in the family knows where the kit is stored. Choose one family member to be responsible for checking the kit twice a year. That person should check that everything in the kit is fresh and up to date. Look for expiration dates on medicine labels and other items. Your family should replace items that have expired. Schedule kit checks on the days when your family changes the clocks for daylight saving time. That way, you won't forget to keep the kit updated. So now, what goes into that safety kit? Here are some important items to include in a safety kit. Food, water, and related supplies. So 1 gallon of water per person per day for 3 days. A 3-day supply of non-perishable food for each person. Remember, non-perishable food is food that won't get bad. So include only foods that you shouldn't have to refrigerate or heat. Make sure it's food that your family likes to eat. A non-electric can opener, unbreakable plates, cups, and utensils, and paper towels and plastic bags. Now you also will need some personal items. Clothes for each person for 3 days. Include warm clothing, socks, and comfortable, sturdy shoes. Toothbrushes, toothpaste, soap, and toilet paper. A pillow and a sleeping bag or blanket for each person. And diapers and other baby supplies if needed. You'll need a first aid kit, bandages, aspirin, and other supplies. The American Red Cross website has a complete list of what to include. You may want to put prescription medicines if needed, and then names and phone numbers of healthcare providers like your doctor. 4, electronics and safety supplies. A battery-powered radio, a cell phone and a solar charger, a whistle to signal for help if needed, matches in a waterproof container. Let the adults handle these. Flashlights, 1 per person, and then extra batteries. Number 5, documents. Identification information for each family member. So that means like driver's licenses, social security cards, birth certificates, any of that really important stuff. Insurance cards, and then your bank information too. Also, some extras, maybe some toys and games, books, paper and pens or pencils. And then you obviously cannot forget about your pets. I know that almost all of us have pets, and so you'll want to create a supply kit for them too, which should include a 3-day supply of food and water for each pet, a supply of medicines if needed, copies of your pet's veterinary records, cat litter and litter box if you have a cat, and food dishes. And it's funny that we're talking about pets because I have one of my pets right here who just came to visit. This is Walter. And I think I've told you guys that I have 2 cats and a dog, so I would have a lot of extra stuff to put in my emergency kit. Now, if you go to during and after an emergency, that is on page 518. In an emergency, it's important to stay calm. Remember, if you followed the steps on the previous pages, you and your family are well prepared. All you need to do now is to listen for instructions. Pay close attention to emergency workers such as police, firefighters, and government officials. They will provide important information such as whether to stay home or to move to another location. Now, I want to bring to your attention that I think you guys can make a lot of personal connections to this procedural text, because while we're not in danger, there is kind of an emergency going on with COVID-19. We're having to follow the guidelines of our governor, which is why you're not in school right now and your parents aren't at work and we're all home together. He is the one responsible, and we are following his instructions. So in case of weather emergencies, use your portable radio to find the NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration radio station. You can also get weather updates on a cellular phone. Information will be available on severe weather conditions and how long they're expected to last. It's important to follow adults' instructions before, during, and after an emergency. Dangerous conditions such as fallen power lines or gas leaks can require extra caution. Emergency workers will give you the all clear when it's safe to go outside. Finally, you and your family may want to help your community recover from an emergency situation. Check with your local Red Cross or other agencies to find the best ways to help your neighbors or your town recover. Don't forget to give your family a big hug too. You showed you can get through challenging times together. Thanks to some careful planning. Good work. So that was a lot, and I'm sure a lot of that seemed like basic information to you. But it is useful information, and because that was a procedural text, there were different headlines that gave you the exact steps and instructions you would need to be prepared in case an emergency arises. Now, you will want to keep this story close to you because we will have several activities similar to the ones that we do in class, such as reading comprehension and analyzing text features and all of that in the coming days. If you have to go back, you can either listen to my video again as I've read the text, or you can go back and read it with a family member. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll talk to you later.